What's going on, racers? And thank you for tuning in for another episode of JB Trickle RC. Finally got that Losi 22S update video coming your way. It took me a little while because I had to wait on some things to arrive to be able to give you the follow-up and the next step in the evolution of my Losi 22S no prep drag car. This has been a series I've been hosting on the channel, giving you guys my updates on the build with the car, what I've learned, changes that I'm making, so on and so forth. And this is probably the biggest change that we've made so far in the series. But first, let's go over some of the most recent changes I've done with the car, talk about that before I reveal what's to come. So, first and foremost, I did one of the most popular mods that are out there with this Losi No Prep 22S drag car. That was remove some of the side bracing and the Nerf bars and things like that in an attempt to do a little bit of weight reduction. Another thing that I did is I played around with my gearing. I was sitting around like a 5 final drive ratio FDR, and I ended up going closer to a 6. It put a lot more. Before that, the car was steady. It was planted to the ground. I could run A to B every time consistently, never had any wheelie problems, so on and so forth. The new gearing and everything, once I got the car to actually maintain traction, to keep the nose on the ground and get down the track, the car was a little bit faster, it seemed, at least according to my records. I'm going to start trying to keep track of harder records and harder numbers to go by this season during practice and so on. I haven't really been keeping track of that because I've been in more of the learning stages, but I am going to be tracking that and sharing some of that information with you as we go on. Ended up having to add just a little bit of nose weight to help keep the front end down, so on and so forth. However, the biggest discovery that I found out whenever looking at a lot of my friends and opponents' cars on the tech scales, NPRC weight rules, a minimum weight of 2,060 grams. My car is coming in at well over 2,300 grams. I did put them on the tech scale and so on and so forth. I thought I had a scale here at home. I was going to weigh the car for you and show you the change. We're going to have to wait on that number until we can get back on the tech scales. My scale will not read above 1,000 grams, and the scale that I have at home currently. So I'm going to have to put this back on the tech scales. I apologize for that. I did try. But the official number is, let's see here. The official number was 2,318 grams is what this car weighs. We need to get it as close to 2,060 as we can. And the reason I say that, the guys that I'm running against, they're right on that weight cuff. They go up to the tech station, body on, battery in, ready to race. And I can't tell you how many cars I've seen that weigh 260 grams. I've been told being, let's just say, almost 300 grams overweight. I mean, you're looking at least a couple tenths on time there is what I have been told from experienced racers, experienced drag racers. As you guys know, most of my knowledge resides in the oval side of things, dirt oval, pan car oval, so on and so forth. So I'm still learning this and letting you guys know what I learned along the way as well. But that's what I've been told. But one thing I do know is if my competitors are right on that weight cuff, I need to be on that weight cuff too. Try to get it as close as you can, and that seems to be a lot more important for the 13.5 class because this class is, it extremely limits what we're able to do to the car. So that's what we're running. We're going to step up classes in the future, but we're not there yet. But what I'm excited to show you guys and what the part of this video is going to be, this is going to be not only a project update build, but kind of not just a project update video, but kind of a update build as well. Finally received this. And this is the Undercover RC Hitman drag chassis that is made for the Losi 22S no prep drag car. Now, I just used the chassis plate for this section of the video. You'll see the rest of the car later. It does come with some of the side reinforcement bracing that's going to be on posts, so on and so forth. It's going to have its own front bumper system. It's going to maintain the kick up. It's got a bolt down kick up plate and everything, bulkhead, whatever you want to call it, for the front end to get it mounted to the car, so on and so forth. So not only are we going to be shaving weight going from the aluminum chassis plate, we're going to be eliminating a lot of this unnecessary weight up front as well with some of this other system. Getting rid of this body post system, going to be running a GFRP It's one of GFRP, of course, is my dirt oval car. I'm going to be running some GFRP body post on the front of this car. May leave the rear alone for now. I don't know yet. But that's the biggest change coming to the car. We're going to be doing some major weight reduction with this car kit. And I can't wait to get an official number on what that weight reduction number is going to be. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into the build and start getting this thing changed over. All right, so first off, I wanted to show you what we had here. We've got the chassis plate, show you what all comes with the Undercover RC Hitman chassis kit for the Losi 22S. And basically we got the chassis plate, we got our little side bracing system and our standoffs for it. We got our front bumper, we got some other brackets that are going to be going into the car as well. But what we're going to go ahead and start off now is we're going to get all these installed here, and then we're going to start disassembling the car and moving some things over. So let's, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, guys, so we got that first part done. I didn't really film that because that's the easiest part of this car, is putting these pieces on here and the little risers and so on and so forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be covering more aspects of the car, because we've got to decide on a few things too. Like, this chassis is cut where you can still use some of the platforming that the car has. It also allows you to still use the adjustable battery tray, so on and so forth. Am I going to use that still, or am I going to go to Velcro and tape? I'm not exactly sure yet. And weight's still going to play a part of that as well. So we're going to keep working towards it and figuring out which direction we're going to go in and getting some other things squared away on the car as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start moving over some of the front end, getting all that stuff changed over. So what I'm going to end up having to do is get all this stuff off, get the front end moved over, and this front end and the way this car is going to be mounted, it's going to you know, eliminate a lot of this stuff in through here once we get over the car. So with that said, let's go ahead and start getting this thing taken apart, and so we can get everything removed that way as well. Okay, so what we have here is, you know, fitting is going to be expected whenever you're doing an RC project. That's nothing new, right? So what this piece does, if I was to put this back together, you're going to see there is going to be a space there, right here. So that's what that little carbon fiber piece serves as, is that spacer in there so it's mounting flush. Because this whole system is going to be bolted on like this, to which this will then be bolted onto the chassis plate. So that's what we got to get, you know, set up here. And so it's going to require just a little bit of fitting. So I've got my Dremel tool, and we're just going to try to clearance this a little bit. All right, guys. So here's what I ended up having to do. The small holes here did not want to line up due to the angle of the screw. So dimensionally, the part was fine. Okay, dimensionally the part lined up. But the problem is, with the screws going at an angle, it was hitting those the smaller ear holes here. And I just decided, you know what, this is still going to serve as a spacer, just like this. So I ended up cutting the ears off, because I can show you here, if we were to put it into place, let me get it flipped around. It's still going to be making sufficient contact and serving as a spacer. The screws are now just going to be able to move between that, but the actual surface itself will still, you know, be able to be a support. So I haven't really changed anything in that aspect, but now I'm hoping that this will allow for a little bit better fitment, since I was having some issues here. And, you know, I'm sure somebody's gonna, and, you know, and that's nothing, you know, against Undercover or anything like that. I just ran into that personally with mine. You may not have that issue, but with mine, it definitely did not want to line up. So I could not recess those holes in there, which, as you can see, I'm still having a little bit of clearance issue. So I'm going to move these areas up as well. All right, here we are again with just the last little bit of fitting that I'm going to do to this part, and see what we can get going on here. Let's see. So this should go on like so. And hopefully this will be it. Hopefully everything will fit as should at this point, and then we can continue the process. All right, so from here, again, I just want you to see, even with the modification that I did, is I got rid of those ears for those screws, because for whatever reason, I guess it's maybe due to the angle, that it was not going to line up with the small ear holes. But we have nothing to worry about, because the purpose of this part is to just serve as a shelf to fill that gap between this section here, the bulkhead for these arms right here, so, or kick up, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to get that resolved now, because I should be able to fit these parts together and get moving forward with the build again. All right, guys. So after a little bit of wrestling, we finally got the front end mounted. And what I ended up having to do is the front screws that came off the car went back in no problem. The rear screws that went in back here ended up coming up a little bit short. One of them was actually partially stripped on my side anyway. That could have been from the factory, from Losi. The other side, it was okay, but I could tell it was only maybe 2 or 3 threads in. The front I had no issues with, so the rear I actually ended up finding some longer screws that would work. So I got those put in there. It's actually 2 different screws, but the lengths are the same. So that's how I got that. So be aware, you may end up having to go to some longer screws for the rear side whenever it comes to mounting the front of this car. But I did just want to show that. But from here, we're going to go ahead and get the front end mounted up and then decide what we're going to do with some of the other things, or some of the other areas. But this one's straightforward, okay? The way this car kit comes with the new kick-up block here, it's got some little threaded pieces here that your front screws are going to go into. You're going to end up needing to probably use some fine needle nose and hold a nut for the back side. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and get the front end here bolted onto the car, so that way we can keep pressing forward. All right, guys, so got an interesting update for you here. Working on my Undercover RC Hitman chassis conversion. And if you look up under here, you're going to notice that these areas are floating, okay? Now it's actually picked up a little bit. They're going to actually sit a hair lower than it is there. What was designed to go here, there's actually a couple things, actually. I gave Greg at Undercover RC a phone call and was just discussing with him a couple issues I ran into, one of them being the fitment I had to do on this carbon fiber spacer, and then this right here, because I had the risers for these the little side plates here, and that is what they are designed to do, but my kit did not come with the pieces to go up under here. Recently what they did is they actually made some changes to the front kick up, and it actually increased the angle, which put all of these parts right here closer to the bottom of the chassis. Greg believes that some of the older parts were actually printed instead of the newer parts. And I wanted to present this to you and talk to you. I'm going to be able to correct the issue. Greg, super cool at Undercover RC. He's going to be sending me out the spacers that I can put under here. And he's also going to be sending me the updated front kick-up piece here as well. So customer service there is on point. Greg's super nice guy. I actually talked to him for a while about several other things. So that's part of the deal. I just want to show you guys, you know, I ran into this issue. You may not, because there seemed to be another part that was designed here for the spacer and the front kick up. So you may run into this issue, you may not. But the cool thing is the awesome customer service that you're going to receive from Undercover RC to get you squared away if you run into these issues, which you may not. And to me, the customer service side of things is just as important as anything else. So that alone means a lot. So huge shout out to Greg and his crew at Undercover RC for taking care of me. So what we're going to do to finish this build while I'm waiting on some of the parts to come over, I'm going to take some of these spacers out, put them where they need to go as far as these areas are concerned, and then we're going to continue moving forward with the build. All right, guys. So we went over some of the issues that I had that I ran across, and like I said, not major issues. I've been in the RC hobby for so many years. Running into things like this don't really bother me. I've learned over the years to adapt and overcome. So that's what we had to do here. But again, the Undercover RC crew, absolutely fantastic guys, absolutely awesome and fantastic product, and customer service like no other. I mean, you know, I sent an email to Greg. He said, hey, give me a call if you want to. I called, like I said, we chatted about the things that I ran into, as well as just some other, you know, fun talk as well. So super cool guys. So if you do run into something, or if you're thinking about purchasing this chassis, do not let that bother you at all. The crew there, the guys, they are going to take care of you. Awesome customer service, absolutely awesome. So huge shout out to them. Super glad I decided to go with their chassis platform for my Losi 22S build. So I wanted to show you what I did. Again, Greg is sending me out the additional little side rail spacers to replace the ones that I removed, because I removed a couple to make my fix. Now, what I did to maintain low center of gravity purposes is I unscrewed the servo mount. Is normally directly screwed to this portion here. Okay, hopefully you can see that good and clear. What I did is I removed that screw, and then I secured the servo brace all the way down flush on the chassis plate. So instead of my servo floating, I've been able to, you know, keep up that lower center of gravity of getting your weight of everything that you can down low on the chassis plate itself. So what I did is I removed 4 spacers, side rail spacers from here. And then what I did is 2 of those are in here for the steering, because that was floating a little bit. So they're up under the steering like it's supposed to be. I lowered this and I put the other 2 spacers between the servo mount and this upper piece here. So now everything is nice and rigid and put together as it should, and I was able to maintain that low center of gravity. Now, yeah, I could have left this connected to that and just slid those spacers underneath here and underneath here, as well as up there, and I'd have been done with it. But again, I wanted all that weight to try to maintain a low center of gravity as much as possible. So I decided just to move that servo all the way down and put the spacers here. So we got a real nice solid platform. And I'm probably going to end up having to rework the front suspension right now. My front suspension arms, if you look, they are not dropping. They're not touching the chassis plate. And that's due to the slight amount of, you know, difference between changing it over from the Losi chassis plate to this one. So I'm probably going to go in and end up reducing my limiters in the front shocks. That way the front suspension can move a little bit more and become lower. It's going to be a nice low chassis, but I do want to allow the front suspension to move a little bit more when necessary. All right, so let's go ahead and get the other parts of the car off the Losi 22, the factory chassis plate there. And this is really a straightforward swap over, guys. I mean, it's pretty simple. You're just going to remove all those screws, the rear suspension, the rear shock tower, the accessories there, the battery hold down, the battery tray, speed controller tray, transmission, all that stuff. You take those screws out and boom, that whole assembly pretty much pops off just like you see there. And then we're going to be able to just kind of flip it over and attach it to the new chassis plate. So there's our old Losi aluminum chassis plate. So we're just going to set it to the side now and keep on moving forward, getting everything over to the carbon fiber, the Undercover RC Hitman chassis plate. Now, one thing I want to show you here in just a second too is the right here, the speed control / battery tray. I thought about doing something here. So as you can see, I got the shock tower put on, the rear suspension part of it put on, and I disconnected the ESC tower / battery tray. And I came up with an idea to be able to reduce a little bit more weight by doing something here. So I'm going to show you how it's setting there, okay? I've decided what I'm going to do is cut the battery portion there off of the ESC tray. Then we're going to mount the ESC down on the actual chassis, lower center of gravity, so on and so forth. And then those 2 sides for the battery hold down, I'm going to drill a couple holes just in front of those, the holes that are there already, so I can have a little bit further forward adjustment for the battery tray. So as you can see there, all I did is I took a Dremel cutting wheel and I cut the ESC tower off, and now we're just left with those little battery holders. And once you secure them down, you'll still be able to use the rubber mount, and so that'll work. So now we're going to have further adjustment forward and backwards. and then we can get it a little further forward than we have been, you know. And so what we're going to do here is we pretty much already got them installed now. We can adjust it front to back more adjustability. And we've got plenty of room all the way back there in front of the shock tower to mount the ESC. And we're going to do that here momentarily. So I haven't secured anything down yet, but I went ahead and got the transmission in. The motor was still in it and the ESC. So I'm going to kind of decide where I want to mount the ESC again. But it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be going, like I said, pretty much near that shock tower and centered on the chassis plate. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. You know, like I said, it's going to be lower, better for low center of gravity purposes. It's not going to be riding up high. I had no issue using the existing wire locations and so on and so forth. No issues with that at all. So another thing I want to do is I'm going to end up taking a zip tie and wrap around those wires in that shock tower. Those wires are fairly firm, so I don't think they're going to hit anything, but we're going to be, you know, zip tied to be safe. And then one thing, too, I want you to notice is that front bumper, I have it mounted the way it was designed. The front bumper is mounted on the lower portion of that bracket. I'm a little bit worried about front end clearance there. Granted, I still have to do a little bit of front suspension geometry work, but we're going to change something out on that here, too, and I'm going to show you that momentarily as well. Yeah, the way the front suspension travel had me a little bit worried. So what we did is, you just saw a moment ago that the front bumper was mounted on the bottom side of that bracket. I moved it, mounted to the front. So now we have more clearance on the front, even with the additional front suspension geometry work I'm going to have to do a little bit. But all that's going to do is keep the car from, you know, grinding that front bumper whenever you go to stop the car and have to hit the brakes and so on and so forth. So as you see, we got a lot more travel now, and you know, the natural angle of the chassis right now is kind of sloped down towards the front more anyway. So that's going to, you know, take care of that clearancing issue. Alrighty, now from here I just want to kind of show you what a lot of the stuff that we've pulled off the car, the additional pieces. So there's all the existing front, you know, body post mount, cross braces and stuff, that's gone. The ESC tower and the receiver tower has been removed. The factory front bumper has been removed. So this is actually some additional weight that we're getting rid of. So that's going to be helpful and that's going to help with the weight reduction aspect of this changeover. And again, I'm going to learn, you know, how much success do we have with weight reduction with you guys, because I was filming this real time, so I didn't know what to expect or what we were going to get until the end of the video, which I'm going to reveal those final numbers once we get to the end as well. I may keep that piece, I may not. That rubber pullover does a really good job keeping that battery securely in place. I've not had any problems with it. But pretty much, I mean, it's all together there. We're going to go ahead and get the electronics, you know, taped in where they need to be, and we'll pretty much go from there. But we're getting there. It's almost done. All right, guys. Well, we pretty much got the whole process finished up. Going to go over a couple things to show you some close-ups and whatnot. But we've got our Undercover RC Hitman chassis conversion done. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, they are going to be sending out a couple other components to try and to help fix my a couple of the missing part issues that I had. Great group of guys, can't wait to run this car. Great product, super happy with it. How the project went, the outcome of the car itself, and I cannot wait to get to the track and actually get to try this thing out. A couple things I do want to show that I did do since I last filmed a couple of the procedures here. Was we did get my electronics mounted in, and pretty much got my receiver and ESC centered up on the chassis. I'll get you some close-ups here in a moment as well. So pretty much the car's ready to go. The only thing I got to do is I'm going to install like an antenna tube on here, that's, you know, nothing major. And I'm going to run a zip tie around these wires on this rear shock brace here, just to help keep that from possibly getting tangled up. I doubt it will, but always better safe than sorry. A couple other things we're going to be doing too is, as you can see, I've got my new Proline wheels and tires on the front of the car. Here's the original takeoffs from the Losi. These are the Proline reactions that I've been running. They're pretty worn now. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad. What I have done is I got a couple new sets of reactions. These are foam in. I'm going to try another set that are not going to have foam in. And then I've got these new what is this? This is the Drag Race Concepts Access tires. Going to be giving those a try as well. Right off the bat, I know some guys run foam, some guys don't run foam at all, some guys are running air. Right off the bat, I do notice that the Drag Racing Concept Access tires, the foam is a lot heavier than the foam that came with your action tires. So that's going to be more rotating weight. But I've heard really good things about these tires. So I may get another set of these to maybe try without foams too. I'm not exactly sure yet. But we've got a little bit of experimenting to do, so that's okay. All right, so we only got a couple more things to do with the car to fully finish it up for this episode, of course. And one of those is we got to get a new body painted, put on here. I've been running the Proline Octane. Great, you know, I enjoyed it. It's a good looking car and everything, but I wanted to do something a little bit different since we were doing a heavy changeover. And I also just wanted to try something a little bit more narrow. That Octane's a pretty wide body. I want to try something a little more narrow and just, you know, see performance-wise how it goes. So what I'm going to do, what we decided to do for this body is we're going to try that new Proline 19, I can't remember if it's 1967, 1968 Ford Mustang body. So with that said, let's go ahead and throw some paint on this thing and see what we come up with. And here we have it. All painted up, ready to go now. Like I said, there's only a couple other things I need to finish up on the car and the weight. We'll get more on that here shortly. What I ended up doing is, this is one of my dream cars, okay, 67, 68 Mustang Fastback. And I thought real hard about what to paint on this car. And, you know, I love the Gone in 60 Seconds movie, Eleanor, you know, Steve McQueen's The Bullet. You know, there's several different Hollywood Mustangs that would feature an awesome paint scheme, but those are going to be the most common. Those are going to be the ones that people are going to do the most of. So I decided to do something a little different. I was also in RC airplane flying, and I always had a P-51 Mustang in my fleet. It's one of my favorite fighter planes from that era, one of my favorite RC planes to fly. So I thought it'd be cool to do a P-51 Mustang theme. My other idea was to do like a gunmetal gray with copper and do a Doc Holliday theme. And then I got to thinking, I said, why not merge them both into one paint scheme, have a little bit of fun, just like on the old Warbirds, you know, like the P-51 Mustangs, you had the Ferocious Frankie, you had the Old Crow. So here we have the P-51, 67, 68 Mustang, Doc Holliday, Warbird paint schemes. Alrighty guys, so this is the closing portion of the video. As we talked about earlier, I did not have a scale at the time to put the car on the scale in front of you for the video. The scale that I had, the units didn't go up high enough. I've got my hands on another scale, so we're going to close the video out to see what kind of weight change we have between the aluminum and all the plastic that we removed and changed over to carbon fiber. I'm hoping to see some weight reduction because I do want to get closer to that minimum 2,060 grams per the NPRC rules. But we may not. I mean, I don't know. We're going to find out together right here, right now. The car was 2,318 grams, and I verified that weight on a set of tech scales at a race. I had it noted in my phone. So that was our beginning weight with that. So let's go ahead and jump over and find out where we weigh now. All right, everyone. So here we are at the moment of truth. We got our car over here. We're getting ready to get that thing on the scales and weighed. It's going to be race weight, just like my previous tech weight. Keep in mind, the car originally, before we did all this changeover stuff, weighed 2,318 grams. So we're going to weigh it race weight again, all the electronics in it, my normal race pack, which was weighed at the tech table. Then we're going to put the body on. But this scale here, here's a 200 gram calibration weight. So we're going to check for calibration. So we're right there at it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that is 200 grams, so we know that it is calibrated. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place the car on, because my hands are not exactly free. And then the extra body pins are already on the body, or already on the car. Then I'm going to place the body on top as well. And it looks like the new weight is 2,150, let's just go ahead and round it up and say 55 grams. 2,155 grams. So, with all the changeovers we did to the car, we did get a weight reduction. So we're heading in the right area. It may not have been quite as much as we wanted, but it's still a good thing. We got some weight reduction out of it. Well, guys, that definitely sums it up now. This project is done and complete. I cannot wait to go make some hits with this car and try it out. And I was happy to see that we did get some weight reduction out of it. It may not have been quite as much as we wanted, but super excited to give this a try. Regardless of the weight reduction, I feel like the capabilities of this chassis is going to be far more greater than the stock kit, along with just the adjustability and and things of that nature. So being able to move things around a little bit more. I've got more adjustment with the battery. I was able to get some things lower to the chassis plate, for low center gravity purposes, so on and so forth. So regardless, I feel like it's going to be a pretty good update to the car. Cannot wait to try it out. I've got several different things we're going to be throwing at this. But don't worry, guys. As soon as I'm able to get out and run this car, I'll take you on that adventure, film it, and we'll even try to get some GPS runs and times on camera as well in the near future. Maybe not the first time out, because I feel like the first time I'm gonna have to be focused on tuning on the car and getting it to go A to B again. But the recording sometimes are going to be coming for this car. But guys, as always, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're going somewhere to race this coming weekend, I wish you all the best of luck. Have fun, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.